Hiya, what's the crack? It's Erin. If you've been following me for a while, then you understand the kind of ups and downs that I've been through in the past year and a half. And I'm very confident to say that I think this is going to be the messiest video that I post. So please just be patient and try and watch it to the end to try and understand what's going on. A lot of you watching are going to know me personally, or you're going to know me because you've been watching my stuff for a while. And so you'll already know the crack. But to quickly summarise it, in October 2023, they found my brain tumour. They said I had to get brain surgery. I had brain surgery like 2 or 3 weeks later, got that out, and they said it was going to be about 2 weeks until I found out what it was. That 2 weeks turned into 79 days. It went to multiple labs and they were kind of unsure as to what it was. It was kind of like an unusual one. So at this stage, I was in Canada and I'd been told by multiple oncologists in different hospitals that there was nothing that they could do, that it was diffuse. It had hit that point where there was no going back. And if I had been a wee bit older, then I would have went ahead with chemo and radiation that you can only get done once whenever it comes to brain tumours. And it has like permanent effects on you. It leaves you with a wee bit of brain damage long term, but they knew I was going to need it down the line anyway. Me being so young, they wanted to wait a wee bit longer until the next one. So then this had been to 3 different labs in Canada at this stage. Then whenever I was moving back home to Ireland, I was like putting all my hopes in getting a second opinion here. And if you watched my most recent one, which is an absolute massive video, and I refuse to watch that back, I was really upset when they told me I had about 11 years left. And being completely honest, like this wasn't too different to what I had already been told, right? Like I already knew things weren't looking great. I had already been told that there's nothing that they could do. For it to be so black and white was difficult, and I had had so much hope on it being different when I got home. And so that kind of just felt like the last nail in the coffin for me, and there was nothing else that I could really do. And the oncologist at home was like, there's no point in getting a second opinion kind of thing, right? And so that is where I left things with you. And now this is where things get very complicated, and so please just bear with me. So my ma ended up going to a doctor's appointment, and over here we would say GP, but I know some of you would call it like a family doctor. And she was just chit-chatting away to them, and they were asking for a wee bit of an update on where I was, and she was like, oh, it's not great, and you know, she's having a hard time processing. And so the doctors was like, well, go and ask her to come up and we'll try and answer any questions that we have for her, see if there's anything that we can do support-wise or whatever. And so whenever I went up to that appointment, I said to the doctor, the only question I have, I just have one, is why can I not get the second opinion? Which is what I had been kind of told I was going to get, right? This is why I went through bringing the tumour from Canada back home, right? Because we were told it was going to go over to England and all that. So that just kind of seemed like a lot of time wasted and a lot of hope put into something that then was kind of just dismissed. Now this doctor did say I don't really have a say in that. I can try and contact the hospital that try to like push off the idea of getting a second opinion and try and figure out why, but I can't push for it. And I was like, right, okay. And I was kind of telling this doctor the process of what I had had from bringing the tumour home, right? And it had been, my dad actually had gotten the contact information of a lab here at home. And so he was able to contact that lab, and he gave me the number of someone that worked in the lab. So I contacted that person, and I was able to contact the hospital in Canada, and then I put that person and the hospital in Canada in contact with each other, and they were able to sort out most of the process from there. And so I was telling this to the GP or family doctor, and they said to me, well, why don't you just contact that person that works in the lab? And I was like, I didn't really think about that because I don't think I'm really supposed to have their personal number, right? Like that didn't cross my mind. And if I had just been at home this whole time, that wouldn't be an option. So I was like, right, okay, maybe I'll do that. I'll think about it, because I didn't want to put that person in a weird position or me to annoy someone either. So I thought about it, and then I sent that person a message. So I texted them and I said, hi, I'm just wondering why I didn't get to send that tumour off that like we brought home. Whenever that was the whole point of it. I'm just wondering why that wasn't the case and if that's still an option. And about 2 minutes after I sent that message, my phone rang and I answered the phone, and it was the person that works in the lab. And they were like, who is this? And I was like, oh, Erin, you know, the one from Canada, brought the stuff over. And they knew straight away. And they said to me, you mean they didn't tell you? And I was like, tell me what? And they were like, yeah, they already got a second opinion. And I was like, excuse me? Like, what do you mean? Right? You're telling me that they've gotten a second opinion and I wouldn't know. If my ma hadn't went to that doctor hadn't asked to answer any of my questions, I hadn't went to that appointment, and that doctor hadn't told me to contact you. Right? So I was like, okay. And the person that worked in the lab was like, but I can't tell you anything over the phone. It has to be through your oncologist in the hospital, which is the person that didn't really want me to get a second opinion anyway. And I did end up finding out later down the line, it wasn't that oncologist that got the second opinion. I believe it was the neurologist in that hospital that I talked to before that oncologist. And so I was like, right, okay. So that person that worked in the lab was like, I'm going to send that hospital an email right now. I'm going to CC you and like confirm your email address. And I want you to text me and let me know that you've gotten the email. So I was like, right. So they contacted the hospital. I got the email. And they basically said, like, you need to ring her like right now and let her know. A couple hours later, I did get a phone call from a nurse in that hospital, and she said, I can confirm that we did get a second opinion, but the oncologist that you've been seeing took some time off work. So that's why we're behind on everything, and that's why we haven't gotten back to you. And I was like, okay, even though I was told I wasn't going to get a second opinion, but okay. And she said, I can send you the short version, I can't remember the correct word she used for it, but like the short report over email, but I'm going to have to post you the longer report, so we have to wait a few days. So I said, right, okay. And so I was waiting for the email to come through. Devin was working nights, so he was sleeping, so I was just sitting, and I got the short report, and I have all the reports in front of me here, so I don't want to get anything wrong. So I opened the email, and it says on it, revised final diagnosis, low-grade glioneuronal tumour in keeping with ganglioglioma, grade 1. Right? So at this stage, I literally like burst out screaming, crying. And I opened the bedroom door and Devin literally had like a heart attack. He was like, oh my God, he freaked out, jumped up and was like, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? And I was crying my eyes out because this whole time they had told me if they had got a grade 1, then there was a very good chance that I would live a normal life. But because it had progressed to grade 2 and it was diffuse, there was nothing that they could do. Like they had said to me in that last appointment, that oncologist or neuro-oncologist said to me, you know, when we look at your MRIs, it's like looking at an iceberg. Like even though we're looking and we can see there's nothing in there right now, we don't know how much that's kind of spread into your brain because it's at that point. And when I was in Canada, they were telling me if I had been a few years older, they would have went ahead with the chemo and radiation and left me with brain damage. And now you're telling me it's grade 1 and none of that would be needed, right? So this is where things get messy, right? Because immediate like gratitude and shock, and I was so relieved and I was so upset. I felt like a lorry had hit me. Like I was just like so overwhelmed, right? And I was so grateful. And then this is where I got a little unsure with things, right? So when I looked at the longer report, there's a few things that kind of make me worried. So first of all, it says a disclaimer at the bottom of every page, and it says classification using, I'm going to put the spelling here for what this testing is called, is a research tool under development. It is not verified and it has not been clinically validated. Implementation of the results in a clinical setting is the sole responsibility of the treating physician. So that made me very nervous to take this for what they were calling it. I was confused because ganglioglioma was one of the ones that they believed it was at the start, and they quickly removed that as an option, and I can't remember why. I'd have to go back through older reports or my older YouTube videos, to be honest, and see whatever they had said then. And it's actually insane the ups and downs that has happened where I can't remember, because there's been so many opinions, and it kind of depends lab to lab, doctor to doctor, what they're saying. And so that was one of them that freaked me out, was the disclaimer that this wasn't verified testing. The next thing that confused me was the ganglioglioma, because that had been ruled out. The next thing was I was then told that there's none of the tumour left. So this was the last of the tumour that they did these tests on. And there is parts of this report where it says we couldn't run this test because there wasn't enough tumour. We couldn't run this test because there wasn't enough. And so that made me very nervous, where I was like, okay, how sure are we that this was the type of tumour the whole way through it and not just this one part that you've gotten? And I don't know if that's a stupid question or not. Like, I don't know if it's always spread the whole way through. I don't know. And so then I did go to an appointment with this oncologist, and we drove a couple hours down, and we waited. The appointment was actually an hour later than what it was supposed to be. So we're sitting waiting, and we were nervous, and we went in for this appointment. It was definitely a waste of time. And I don't want to be super negative, but when we went in and I asked these questions, I was saying, you know, what is the likelihood of the whole tumour being this, or what's the likelihood of it only being this wee part of the tumour? You know, and we're looking at the other reports and what the other testing has done, and all these different opinions as to what it is. Like, how sure are we that it was all this type of tumour? And the answer to every single question that I asked this oncologist was, I can't answer that. And so it almost felt like they were trying to cover themselves legally. I forgot to add here a really important point that I made to this oncologist, which was, I said I would understand it a wee bit more if they had mistaken it for a grade 1 when it was really grade 2. Because at grade 2, where it is diffuse, they said that like the outline of the tumour, that like border around it, has started to spread throughout my brain. So it's not a clear line anymore. So I would be more understanding if they had thought it was grade 1 and it was grade 2. But I was like, how could multiple labs have mistaken that outline as being like not clear and starting to spread throughout my brain, instead of now someone else is looking at it being like, no, that's a clear like border of it, which I know I'm using all the wrong language, but I think you understand what I mean. And again, there was no answer to that one. And that is a point that really confuses me and makes me nervous. I don't know, it just felt like such a waste of time. And like the last time I'd seen this doctor, I was crying, sobbing my eyes out, because I was saying like, well, I don't know if I'll ever buy a house, because I wouldn't want to leave Devon to have to pay a mortgage on his own. I don't know if I'd ever have children, because it's like, that's a very, very difficult decision to make. If you want to have them when you're in that situation. And I was sobbing telling this doctor that before, and he was saying, you know, there's not really a point in getting a second opinion. And so when I was at this appointment and I was asking him, well, how likely is it that we can trust this testing when it says it's not verified? And he's saying, I can't answer that. I looked at him and I said, I don't mean to be rude, but it's very difficult to sit here and take this news from you when the last time I saw you, you were telling me I had 11 years to live. And his response was, it'll just take you a wee bit of time and you'll process it. And so it was just such a waste of time to drive all the way down and have no questions answered. And he very much was like, that's the end of that. And now I don't want this to come across like I am not over the moon, right? I'm fully, deeply grateful. Like, I cannot express how happy I am, right? But I think if you're in my position, you would understand how nerve-wracking it is to try and accept that. Like, I feel like I have like literal whiplash from them telling me you're dying to know you're grand. Right? Like, that's not an easy thing to process. It was months of us processing that. Like, it was a long time of coming to terms with that information, to be told now, actually, no, this is someone else's opinion and you're grand. And like, if I hadn't have gotten that second opinion, they would still fully be telling me that I was dying. And so because of that now, they have reduced my MRIs to every 6 months. So I just had one there. And I don't know if they're going to reduce it to once a year. I don't know what their plan is. Of course, I am absolutely relieved. But I also then was hit with such guilt, literally like that survivor's guilt kind of thing, where it just seems so unfair to people that don't get this. It just made me feel awful to be the one that gets the good news. And at that, it's such shady good news. Like, I don't know where I am with that, and I can't take the tumour to get another opinion because there's none left. And now, with it being grade 1, it's not terminal. Like, that is absolutely outstanding. If that is the case, that is absolutely, and I've told myself that that is the case. I've fully processed the fact now that it's not, and that I'm grand. And I'm running with that. Even given that, there is still a chance of it coming back. I don't believe it will. I fully told myself it won't. I pray about it all the time that it's not gonna. Before, they were telling me, oh, there's 100% chance it's coming back. Like, it's going to come back, that's it. And it's gonna be the thing that kills you. Absolutely life-changing. That's unbelievable. That's like night and day. That is like someone has handed me like a second chance at life, which is unbelievable. And I will forever be grateful for that, but I will forever feel guilty for that too. And I don't want anyone that has followed this to move on and forget about the people that are still affected by it. I don't want anyone to be like, oh, she's grand, and let's forget about brain tumour research, because there's still so many people stuck in that position where they don't have much hope, and where the research is so ridiculously underfunded. It is shocking. It is absolutely shocking. It is the biggest cancer killer for children and adults under the age of 40. And yet only 1% of cancer research money goes towards brain tumours. Like, it's unbelievable. And so I don't want anyone to just kind of dismiss it at that. With all that being said, there's not much that I can do to get any more clarification. So I've just kind of been sitting in this little weird zone where I'm convincing myself that I am fully happy and that is it, and I am the luckiest person in the world. But I also would just like a wee bit more support. I would like a wee bit more of someone's opinion. And so there is one man that I literally trust with my life, and that is my neurosurgeon from Canada. And he just so happens to be visiting Ireland next month. And so me and him keep in touch anyway, because he was so invested in what was happening. And he was like, make sure you email me, let me know with a second opinion, like what happens. And so when I told him about it, about the revised diagnosis, he thought it was very interesting. And he asked me to send over all the reports. So I sent them over, and he said, we should have a call, let's figure it out. But then it turned out he's going to be here next month. And so me and my family and Devon are actually going to drive down to Dublin to meet him to get his opinion on the revised diagnosis. So that'll be very, very interesting. I never thought I'd see that man again, never mind in Ireland of all places. So I'm extremely grateful that he's going to have a chat to me about it. And I would trust his opinion. Not that I'm dismissing anyone's opinion, but I didn't get much out of that oncologist appointment except I can't answer those questions. Whereas I would trust in my neurosurgeon a wee bit more, that he would give me his honest opinion. Like, I've had very good conversations with him, so has Devon, and we definitely trust him. So that is the plan as of right now. I hope you understand. I know this is kind of a weird one, and I have recorded this video 3 times. This is my 3rd time recording it, because the first time I was really upset. The second time I was like really, really happy. And this time I feel like I'm in like this weird middle, and it's because it just kind of depends what day you ask me as to how I'm processing it. Because I go through stages of being ridiculously happy, of course, and then I go through stages of being ridiculously afraid to accept it in case it's just someone's opinion. How were all those labs in Canada wrong? How were they going to go ahead and give me treatment that was going to give me brain damage if they were all wrong? Or is this one opinion in England wrong because it's not verified testing? I really, really don't know. And so it just kind of depends on the day, but overall, I'm telling myself that I'm grand and that I'm extremely lucky, and I will continue to put my time and effort into brain tumour research because it is so, so important. So I hope this wasn't too much of a messy video, and I hope you understand kind of the weird situation that I'm in and all the weird feelings that we're feeling. But mainly we're grateful and we're happy and we're relieved, but I also scared and guilty. So I hope that makes sense, and I just want to say thank you very much for everyone that has ever donated to brain tumour research. I'm going to have the link in the description and in the comments below if you would like to even just give a penny. Honestly, it all adds up, and it is going to be one of the really important parts of our wedding as well. When we get married in a very short period of time, we're going to have donations to brain tumour research and everything set up. So I will probably record another video and give you an update on what my neurosurgeon has to say. I don't really know how to end this because I feel like I'm just rambling, but if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so, so much. Thank you for your support throughout this time, and please don't forget about brain tumour research. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.